Hi, Bonnie. Again, this is my final. This is question three, integrating secondary sources into my writing. Uh, Process I used for integrating secondary sources into my writing was mostly again find quotes and that just like conveyed what I wanted to, like just fit in with what I wanted to convey and just like match with my general idea, and then just like get that, throw it in MLA or what's it called, Chicago style footnote, just what's it called, throw it in there and make sure to cite it right because obviously it would be plagiarism if I didn't. But it wasn't really like, oh yeah, let me research and try to find what's it called. I mean, it was mostly just off like what's it called for books. Like that's I mean the only other class that I really had to like research in was history, like 1301 and 1302. Those are the only ones that really had to like dig deep, and even then it wasn't really like digging deep. It was just like, okay, you know what, find a certain quote or find a certain let's say for example my professor would say, hey, look guys, I want you to write me an essay on like why Ben Franklin, what's it called, what was Ben Franklin's position on the independence of what's it called, the United States and the formation of the Continental Congress, example, right? So just would go in there and say, hey, go to the book, go to chapter 7, for example, of my history textbook. Like, okay, this is what he said, page, what's it called? And just like find certain quotes through there and say, hey, you know what, from like in paragraph 2, line 5, the book says this. And cite the book, cite the author, and also cite like like, for example, Ben Franklin, he's the one who said the quote, right? But that's what I would do. Um, how is the process for integrating sources developed in your class? Developed quite a bit. Now I actually realize that there's more sources that I can actually cite, and citing them in terms of like what's it called, um, like formats. I mean, it's still just MLA formats, right? Like I already knew how to do that, but now it's like, hey, you know what? You can pretty much draw quotes from everything. Everything is is what's it called, citable. You can cite anything from podcasts to what's it called, a magazine to a journal. Hell, even my own peers' feedback session, I could cite them if I wanted to. An interviewee, um, and it's just like that. That's what I've learned. And for example, what's it called? Identify examples of work you've like developed in class and like project 1 and 2. Uh, it would have to be for. Sorry, this is the roundtable talk. Uh, Damn it. I mean, one that I could actually use would be the reading exams, because that's actually a big one. On the reading exams, for example, like especially, sorry, um, the unflattening. That's what it was. So the reading exam for unflattening, that was actually a pretty good one that we like what's it called, learn to cite, and that's just one that like I can use. I'm trying to pull it up pretty quick. What was it, week 10? I think it was. Yeah. uh, I mean, here we all had to like cite our own, right? Like we were just pretty much citing ourselves, but we had to like tie into what's it called, and integrate like the writings of the book into our, not so much writing, but our submission. And I mean, for me, it was the ear, and it was just like how I had to tie into the perspective of it, right? Maybe getting off topic here. Maybe this is not what you want. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, I what's it called? The process of like integrating it is just like uh, the process of integrating it is now it's more like it's more in depth, if you will. Like now, I just don't look for like, oh yeah, let me find a random quote that like I could just throw in there, right, and like just cite that quote. No, now it's like, hey, you know what, like this actually fits in to what I'm saying, and actually goes and goes a long way in terms of identifying like what's it called, sources. Because hell, I could have like using my previous method, I could have just looked at one measly quote or line that the author said, and what's it called, not know that what's it called, that one quote I just found it, like I used that source because just that, like I found that, sorry, just mixed up, that I ended up using that source because of one line of writing that I found that fit in with what I wanted, when in reality the whole source went against what I was trying to say. So it's just like, hey, you know what, like you can actually, it pays to, what's it called, dig deep into it. And in a future scenario, I mean, again, I can really see, what's it called, myself using this in later classes, especially my engineering report classes, because I have to cite everything and find, hey, you know what, well, who came up with this patent and who came up with this idea. And since it's a patent, I mean, that's like, I can't just put whatever I want, because then I'm infringing upon it, and that's how I lose my professional license when I get it. But yeah, that's just something I can do. Everything I know, you, what's it called, I already mentioned it before, but this will all come back to this. The whole focus of this is my main, what's it called, my senior design project. At the end of it, like everything I'm learning in your class actually applies really well into my senior design project in terms of research. From secondary sources, my secondary sources there was going to be, hey, you know what, well, this previous engineer found, what's it called, that this was a solution to my problem, but I can't just use his, because I have to cite him, and I actually have to create or see how I can improve upon his design. Well, I still have to credit him as the original creator. That concludes question 3, Bonnie. Thank you.